So, recently, when I was trying to finish up my farm for Jedi Master Kenobi, I got stopped by a lack of having a 7-star Wat Tambor. So, I decided to, while I was waiting for those, start farming something else. And my research led me to the CLS team. Now, it's a really good team, and that's why it's on this list, but once I built it up, I was able to start doing stuff in like grand arenas, because before that, my best characters were just the requirements for Jedi Master Kenobi. So once I had an actual team built up, I was able to start doing better in all the game modes. So after that, I wasn't really sure what to do. So I just thought, well, let's see. Based on what I have from the Commander Luke Skywalker team, I can just start working towards Jedi Knight Luke. So I started doing that. But I didn't want to be left with just the garbage requirements here. So what I did was I just built up these extra 2 characters, Sana Staros and Stormtrooper Han, just to give them a team for me to use them on, so that they're not just a waste of relics. So after that, I was like, okay, well, why don't I just start doing this from now on? So I just would look at characters I had built up and then figure out where to go from there. So that's kind of what this list is. It will carry you through every major legendary character in the game in a way it will be helpful for your roster to have teams to use these characters on. So the numbers up at the top for the name of the team, that's just the minimum relic requirements that they have for each character. So if you build up these characters to the point that I have them, or the point that the numbers say, you will be able to use them to unlock anything in the game. You won't need them any higher than that. Now, in some cases, it might be better to build them up a bit higher, but I'll talk about that when it comes to it, or maybe in one of my separate videos going over each team after I've built them. So I already talked about these first 2 teams, but then after that, there's Wampa. Now, I'm not going to make a separate video about Wampa because it's just him. So this is such a great character if you put on his Omicron. I can't remember which ability it's on. This one. So basically what it does is it takes a character that was basically useless before and gives him a really good place to be used in Grand Arena. You just throw him by himself into a battle and he will do really good. It's probably worth taking him up to at least Relic 5 if you really want to be able to beat a lot of stuff, but Relic 3 should be just fine. He beats so many things at Relic 3. It's a lot of fun just watching an entire General Grievous team cripple to a Wampa. And then after that, you've got the Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker team, because by this point, you will be ready to unlock him, well, minus Hermit Yoda, but that's where he goes. This team is the best team for Jedi Knight Luke at the point of the game that you're at. Now, Hermit Yoda is the last requirement, so you'll have to build him up first, but then you can unlock Jedi Knight Luke, and you can build up all these characters. Now, in this case, just like Stormtrooper Han, you'll see that there's a 0 above Jedi Knight Revan. As I talked about in my other video, which should be coming out in a few days, maybe, it's probably worth putting him above Relic 0, but if you just want to be the most efficient, you don't need him at anything higher than Relic 0. Getting him to Relic 0 will allow you to be able to use the team in other places. At least Relic 1 will allow you to use Datacrons with him, if that's your thing. But I personally will most likely build him up more than that. That's just the minimum that he's required at. So now, after this, I had finished the team. And I wasn't really sure what to do with it after that. So I kind of just looked at what I had and discovered, hey, Sana Staros, that's one of the requirements for Dr. Aphra. So I looked at some of the other requirements. Hondo has a really good team right here. You throw in Dash Rendar, Vandor Chewie, and then I chose IG-11 and Queel, and we'll see why later. But this right here, you've got a really good team that, even where it's at right now, I'm still getting holds on defense in Grand Arena because of Hondo. Most people who don't know how Hondo works will leave him for last and then allow him to build up all those stacks, and then he just becomes unkillable, and then they have to come back in with a really good character or team just to kill him off. So that's why I enjoy that team a lot. Then I'd say he's definitely worth the Relic investment. But then after that, the other two requirements for Dr. Aphra are part of the team. And as you can see, I also have Vader here because he doesn't really have anywhere else to go. But that's just kind of, and IG-88, you'll see, he is required at Relic 5. We'll see why in a minute, but after that, I was like, okay, well, let's look at everything I have. And then I realized, well, wait, what if I went for the Executor? So I started just putting in a Bounty Hunter team. And you can see Mando and Grief Karga are not actually required at any Relic levels. But if you've noticed, we've also got IG-11 and Queel. And that's because you need the Razor Crest to unlock Executor. But to unlock the Razor Crest, you need to have Beskar Armor Mando. And in order for that, you need to have all these characters at 7 stars. So I'm just giving them places to go. And then after that, Cara Dune is the last one that you need to unlock Beskar Armor Mando. So you just throw her on this team right here. And then you should be able to unlock Beskar Mando. If you can't do it with all Relic 0 characters, I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you just need to like put mods on them or something. But after that, there's still a few more requirements for the Executor. So we've got some Imperials down here, Imperial Troopers. I know it's kind of a dead team, but it's still useful. And unless you're in like the Kyber tiers of Grand Arena, you should be able to do just fine using this team. Now we've got a character that I just could not find a home for, no matter how hard I tried. You need to have him Relic 5 because he's a pilot, so it's not a complete waste of a character. You just won't be using him as the character. You're just using him for his ship. Now after that, that should give you Executor, so I wasn't really sure what to do next. So I looked up, and I saw Kyle Katarn and Dash Rendar. So I was like, okay, let's go for Starkiller. So then here, we have Darth Talon with a Traya team and Savage. This way, it gives you another good home, and this is a really good character for Grand Arena especially. This whole team is really useful. Then that just leaves Mara Jade on the final Starkiller team. So you'll have to build her up first. But you can see I have Plo Koon thrown in there, and I only have him in there because of his ship. this just gives a home for him, since you need him built up for his ship anyways. Now, that's the end of this tab. So from this point, you can jump around in the video to kind of work on maybe what you've already started working on, or what you just want to work on. But I definitely recommend building up all of these teams before doing any of the other tabs. So in this tab, we're going to be working towards Jedi Master Luke, the Profundity, and Galactic Legend Leia, with a bonus little legendary thrown in there. So, to start, the Wookiee team. I know it's not amazing, but it's just an extra team in case you can't quite get through something on defense in Grand Arena or Territory Wars. So it's just an extra thing that's nice to have. Now, if you just look at the next team, you can probably figure out why the Wookiees are here. But next up is an unaligned Force users team with Seer Junda and Cal Kestis. And again, they're good characters, and it's a good team to have. This is not the final form of it, though. There's just a lot of extra stuff that is kind of difficult to unlock that will get you to this point. So, next up is Jedi Training Rey, because she is a requirement for Jedi Master Luke. And this one is just kind of, you might have noticed that you've got Scavenger Rey, Veteran Smugglers, and BB-8. So besides this, you just need to get a 7-star Finn, and you should be able to unlock Jedi Training Rey. And then we have Saw Gerrera to finish up the Jedi Knight Cal Kestis requirements. Almost. And this just gives a home to Biggs and Wedge, who are required at Relics to unlock Jedi Master Luke. And I know it's not a great team, but it's still just an extra team to have in there. Finally, we've got Marin and the Night Sisters. This team isn't for everyone, but you do need to build at least 2 of these characters to unlock stuff. So I'd recommend just building it up anyways. Now, this is 2 of these are requirements that I just couldn't really build a team around. And the last one is a pilot, who you also probably should build up for the Profundity. But that's not happening right now. You just need, I would recommend building these 3 characters up. Maybe you can do something with them in 3v3, but I wouldn't expect a whole bunch. Now, Jedi Master Luke and Jedi Knight Cal are sitting here with Jedi Knight Luke, Jedi Knight Revan, and Hermit Yoda. You might notice those 3 are from one of the first teams that was on the first tab. And that's because you're going to dismantle that team. Those 2 extra characters are going to go do other things. I don't think Bastila Shan will, but you need her built up anyways, and until you get to this point, they can go with these 3 characters. But once you unlock Jedi Master Luke and Jedi Knight Cal, they are going to be the ones that make this team a Galactic Legend level team. Next up, Admiral Raddus for the Profundity. Now luckily a lot of the requirements for this all kind of fit on 1 or 2 teams. So we've got Admiral Raddus here with Cassian, Jyn Erso, and Bistan. I threw K2SO in there because it's just a nice extra character to have. And this is, I believe, the first Relic 9 requirement. So hopefully you've had enough time to accumulate enough of those materials to get him up to that point by now. Or maybe by the time you're watching this video, it's become insanely easy to get Relic 9s. I wish. Now down here is Phoenix team, and you'll notice I don't have Kanan or Ezra on here, and I have a good reason for that. Ezra just isn't a character you want to use on the Phoenix team, and Kanan shows up a bit later on, so you can swap him out if you want, but just wait and watch through this. So Captain Rex is a requirement for Leia, and Hera is a requirement for Radis, which is why the Phoenix team is here. And it's a really fun team to use. Now, after that, you should have Profundity, so you can start working on Leia requirements some more. So 3 of the Ewoks are Leia requirements. And the extra 2 are just characters that you want to have in here. So you can feel no shame in building up your Ewoks past the 3PO unlock. Now down here, Scout Trooper's home in the Dark Trooper Moff Gideon team, which is Imperial Remnants, minus Dark Trooper because he's going to go on your Imperial Trooper team. Now this is a fairly new team because of Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, but from what I've seen, it's a pretty good team. So if you can unlock Dark Trooper Moff Gideon by this point, go for it. If not, just build up the other 4 and come back to it later and build up Dark Trooper Moff Gideon once you get it. And that's going to be something you can do with all the Conquest units that show up. Now, yes, there is a sortie team on here, because Lobot is unfortunately a requirement for Leia. So you have to build this up. You'll see 2 of the characters are required at Relics anyways, but they don't show up till the very last tab. So if you're going in order, you won't need to worry about using these characters to unlock anything for a while. Now this, you need Bausch Leia, and this just kind of, all of these characters I believe are requirements for Jabba, so you can kind of get a bit of a start on that, but this just gives you a use for all these characters until you decide to start working on Jabba. Finally, you've got the Leia Organa team itself with R2, Drogon, and you'll see Old Ben has shown up here, and that's where Kanan is going as well, just for extra tanks. I've seen a lot of people who are dismantling a CLS team to throw them in here. I wouldn't recommend that, because that takes 2 teams and just turns it into 1, and it's always better to have more teams. So that's the end of this tab. Now you can keep going in order, or you can jump around wherever you want based on what your roster is or just what you want to build in general. So just jump around in the video for that. So this next tab is going to be 3 Galactic Legends, which is pretty impressive. It's the most Galactic Legends in a single tab. Now, you'll notice I have a lot of these characters built up because Jedi Master Kenobi is the Galactic Legend that I rushed for and then got shut down by not having a 7-star Wat Tambor. So what I ended up having to do is lay this out, and then I'm going into that first tab and I'm building all those teams, and then I'll come back to this and finish building it up. But obviously I'm building up Jedi Master Kenobi so that I can still use him now that I've unlocked him finally. So if you rushed a Galactic Legend, finish unlocking them, but then just put a hold on them. Like, once you finish building them, put a hold on finishing up all this extra stuff, and just go build the teams in that first tab. Then you can come back, like what I'm going to do. So, to start, Geonosians, I have them all at Gear 12, and I still can't beat the Wat Tambor mission. I'm hoping Relic 0 will be enough, but obviously, if you have a good enough guild, you won't need to worry about this. It's always nice to be able to help them out, though. So, definitely build up your Geonosians to at least Relic 0. Next up, is a Padme team. Now, this is a really temporary team until you can unlock Jedi Master Kenobi, where he will pull most of these characters away. But it gives a home for Shaak Ti and Aayla Secura because they are requirements. Shaak Ti is a lot more useful than Aayla Secura, though, so you will be finding more uses for her. But this is just a temporary team. It will get you through stuff because Padme's lead is pretty good. Now, next up is the Qui-Gon team. All of these characters are required for something, which is what makes it so good. Qui-Gon with his Omicron, and you have to keep in mind, his Omicron only works when you're not going against a Galactic legend. I've made that mistake a couple times, so you have to make sure that you know how it works before you go try to use it. And Kelleran Beq is a fairly recent character that came out as of the time of recording this. So I've heard that he does some great things on this team, but I haven't built him up yet, so we'll see how it is when I make that eventual video of after I've farmed it. It'll be a ways down the line though, so maybe if I'm lucky by the end of the year, but probably next year. And yes, I'm aware 2024 just started. Next up is a Grievous team. You need all these characters built up anyways, so might as well just build it up. And then this is an interesting one. So this is a 3v3 team. So if you jumped straight to this tab, this will be your first time building up Rex. If you didn't, it just gives him a use in 3v3 to make sure these clones have a use. And I'm hoping that I will have to update this at some point this year to include more clones, because the hope is that more clones will be coming out this year to give a good home to these two characters, because they're not really that useful. I mean, yeah, Clone Sergeant has a ship, but that's never the priority in any Galactic Republic fleet. So, it's just kind of a nice extra thing to have. Admiral Trench. Yeah. Obviously, with all Conquest characters, you can build up the entire team except them if you don't have them yet, and then once you unlock them, go back and build them up and finish off the team. But I enjoy this because it just gives a use to all these extra requirement characters that otherwise you don't really have anywhere to put them. Now, this is the newest character to come into the game, and apparently it's doing really good against Jedi Master Kenobi and Lord Vader. So, obviously this is a use for it. And Bo-Katan is required for Jedi Master Kenobi, so it's just nice to have a team to put her on. I've just had her sitting there unused for so long. And then you've got the Jedi Master Kenobi team. Now, this is another Conquest character, so just as I said before, what I'm going to do is build up all the characters that I can, and once I unlock Commander Ahsoka Tano, I'll come back, build her up. So after that, we start moving on to Lord Vader, who one of the requirements is General Anakin Skywalker. Now, you need Ventress to unlock him, so Night Sisters, if you didn't build them up in the previous tab, build them up now. And you might have noticed, sprinkled throughout here, we've got the droids, and we've also got up here the characters that are used for the light side unlock. And you should already have 3PO built up from the very first team. So, with that, you should be able to unlock General Anakin Skywalker. So then, obviously, you want to build up his team. I have the clones built up because these three were my first relic characters. I just really enjoy the clones, and I'm not going to regret putting relics on these characters. I don't see myself regretting that at all. However, it's not the relic 0 minimum, so it's not going to be a completely accurate review when I get to this team. Next up is Bad Batch, another clone team. They are so much fun to use when you can use, like how I have them now, to be a team with maybe Gear 13s or Gear 12s. It's a lot of fun. And you need to build up 4 of them anyways, so might as well throw Omega in there just to finish it off. And then we've got more bounty hunters, just a secondary team. Now you'll see a couple of these carry over from the bounty hunter team that was discussed in the tab with Leia Organa, but this is more of a finalized version of the team with Aura Singh, and it's the way bounty hunters work. You can use them as the 2 teams I have laid out, or you can just mix and match for whatever you need. So that's the thing that's nice about bounty hunters. And then down here, yes, unfortunately, you have to build up Tuskens because 2 of them are required. So build them up. I still think that they're a lot of fun. I haven't built them up yet, though, because I haven't needed to yet. And then after that, you can get Lord Vader with a Conquest unit, yeah. But again, build up the whole team besides Maul and then come back. So a lot of people are complaining about Lord Vader doing terrible on defense. When I unlock him, I plan on just using him on offense only, just to avoid that. So that's what I would recommend doing, is just use Lord Vader on offense, because his time on defense went away a long time ago, and he's still there for some reason. Next up, I could not find any use for these 2 characters. But you have to build them up. You're just going to have to deal with it. Maybe someday they will get a use. I don't know. Right now, they're not worth taking any higher than Relic 3. Next up, Jawas. They might be a little garbage, but they're still so much fun to use. Especially because of Jawa Scavenger just constantly throwing out the thermal detonators. This is a really good Geonosian counter for anyone who was playing the game way back in the day. But you do need a Jawa built up for Jabba the Hutt, so might as well build up the whole team, have fun with it. Now we get to the Jabba team. Now, you'll see this is the final few characters showing up here. And, you know, this is just a really good defensive team. So, you probably won't be using him a whole lot on offense, but it's just an extra defensive team to have. Alright, so now there's 2 tabs left, unless you're jumping around in the video, which, if you are, you can continue to do so. Okay, so this next tab is for SLKR and Rey. So to start, you've got your Phasma team, just a basic first order team. There's a couple Omicrons in there that make it useful for 2 different game modes, Grand Arena on TIE Pilot and Territory Wars on Phasma. They're all requirements, so build them up. And then this right here, you might already have this team, well, these next 2 teams built up if you were in that first tab. Well, or the Jedi Master Luke tab. But if you haven't built them up yet, build them up. There is some carryover to other characters, so you can feel confident building these characters up. Then, there's not a whole lot besides ships, which I'm not going to talk about a whole lot in this video. You should be constantly farming ships in the background for whatever you're working towards. So this whole time I would be working on getting the finalizer, because that's probably the most painful requirement for Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. But then you've got this final team here. So once you have that built up, you've got this team. I hear so many good things about the Zori team, and I still haven't built it up because I don't really have any resistance characters built up at all. So I'll build her up once I get there. But it's still a good home for all of these characters. Now, all of these are just pilots, but it's still nice to have them built up to make their ships that much better, especially if you intend on using the Resistance fleet. Now, this is a pretty short tab, but now we've got Galactic Legend Rey with Jedi Training Rey, BB-8, Ben Solo, and L3 is actually showing up here. This is the most efficient way to use all of the requirements and still make this a really annoying team to use. I see so many different variations of this team that just make no sense, but I haven't actually used the character, so I wouldn't know what works and what doesn't. But feel free to build it however you want. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the final tab. Unless you just jumped straight to this, then move to a different tab. So for this final tab, or if you jumped around in the video, it might not be the final one. But we're going over Sith Eternal Emperor, the Leviathan, and Inquisitors kind of snuck their way in at the end because I couldn't really find anywhere else to put them. So this whole tab only works because Darth Bane is here. It gives a use for all of these Sith characters that just you don't use otherwise. Obviously, it is a conquest character, which is why I recommend waiting until the last, like doing it in order and saving this tab for last, because this is a brand new conquest character that no one even has unlocked as of the time of recording this. So that will cause some problems. Otherwise, just do what I've been saying this whole time. Build up the rest of the team, and then come back once you have him, and then finish it off. Now, next up is just a Imperial team. All of these characters are required. I threw Death Trooper in there because of Krennic. And it's just, again, it's just a very generalized Imperial team. Most of these characters will go other places if you build up other teams. Now, this team is here just because you need Jedi Knight Anakin, but it's a good team to have built up. Padme still does a lot on her own without Jedi Master Kenobi, but eventually you will dismantle every part of this team and put it somewhere else. Now, Sith Eternal Emperor and Darth Bane, we don't know how good it's going to be, but I would still recommend doing this just because that way you can save Wat Tambor for Trench, even if he is pretty bad. He should hopefully be getting some more uses later this year. And then down here, we have this just to kind of build up Darth Revan. I didn't do this for Jedi Knight Revan because a few of his requirements were sprinkled out throughout the rest of the teams, but you're not really going to be using most of these characters anywhere else, so you got to build them up anyways. But with the 0 there, feel free to not take the first 3 characters up past like maybe gear 11. The only one I would maybe recommend is Karth for his ship, but you don't use him that often. And if you want to build up a dark side Mandalorian team, you could use Canderous. Juhani doesn't really have a whole lot of uses, but the other two I would definitely recommend taking up to where I have them here, or at least the requirements. Now, Malgus is another conquest character, so yeah, there's going to be a couple of those in here, but you need him for Leviathan for his ship. Now, this is 2 more Relic 9 requirements. but they're both on this team. So hopefully, if you saved this for last, you had enough time to get enough materials to get them to this point. And you'll see Bastila Fallen has shown up again, and Sith Empire Trooper is required as well. So then we have the last few requirements. So this is the sortie team that should be identical to the one that was in the Leia tab, but this is here just because you need sortie and HK to unlock Leviathan. Now, just some general pilots that you won't be using unless you have the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren built up, then you have a use for Sith Trooper. But if you just jumped straight to this tab, you won't have a home for him. Just build him up for the ship anyways. Now, down here we have Inquisitors, and there's no easy way to do this. I couldn't find any easier way than build up the 5 to Relic 5, and then immediately replace Ninth Sister with Grand Inquisitor. Ninth Sister does actually move to Lord Vader, but then this next one, you kick out Second Sister, and she doesn't really have anywhere to go. But she is a pilot, so she still has use. However, this last one here is the final Inquisitor team that you want. And there are some teams that I didn't put on here, like Iden Versio, because you can build them up, but they don't have a significant use anywhere in the game, aside from just giving a home to Imperials. So if you want to include that here, you can. As off the top of my head, I don't believe any of them are required past Relic 0. So that one, you can kind of build however you want. But other than that, that's pretty much my entire list. You can go through and add all of these teams that you want into your own saved squads in any order, in the order you want to build them up in. But this is just kind of, because all those other farming guides out there tell you exactly what to do, but then you're left with so many characters that don't have anywhere to go. This is just kind of my solution to that. So anyways, that's the video. Please give it a like if you found it helpful, or if you just think it's a good idea. Share it with your friends who might play the game. And yeah, stay tuned. In a couple days I will be releasing a video on my analysis of the Commander Luke Skywalker team, and then a little bit after that will be the Sana Staros analysis.